So I have three books. My first book is Black Women Need Love Too. This is the one that I'm going to predominantly talk about today. However, I also have and this is my first nonfiction, which is my latest and greatest. I'm very proud of it. But I actually write psychological thrillers as well. So Whispers in the Dark is my very first book that I wrote. And a sequel to that is Whispers in the Dark, Descent into Madness. So a little bit about myself. I am, like I said, I'm from Wisconsin. I've actually been writing since third grade. However, it wasn't for the purpose of publication to years later. I spent the majority of my life in the military. So served in the U.S. Coast Guard. Some folks don't consider that military, but yes, it is a military branch, even more so than our new created Space Force. But with that being said, I'm not going to clown the Space Force. But anyways, so Black Women Need Love Too is near and dear to my heart. It's a nonfiction that focuses on self-love, relationships, and community. And part of this is because I was so upset with what was happening in the US and basically around the world about the disrespect to the Black woman and how we were basically the I guess I would call it the joke, the bunt of the joke, like, oh, let's joke about the Black woman. Let's talk. So I wanted to take opportunity to go in detail and figure out why is that. So this book, Black Women Need Love Too, is historical perspective, and I came to a conclusion. So before I get started, I just want to read one part, and it's from Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Successful war follows the path of deception. Thus, when you are able to fight, or thus when you are able to act, feign incapacity. When deploying, feign inactivity. When you are close, appear to be far off. When you are distant, appear close. When your enemy seeks an advantage, lure him further. If he is in disorder, crush him. If he is organized, be ready for him. When he is strong, avoid him. When he is angry, goad him further. If he is humble, be overbearing. If he is resting, hurry him. If his armies are united, split them. Attack where he is unprepared, appear where he least expected. Thus you may see in war, a surprise is the key to victory. Ultimate achievement is to defeat the enemy without even coming to battle. Now, I'm sure you're wondering why I'm quoting The Art of War. And the reason why is because I've come to the conclusion that there is a psychological war and campaign against the Black woman and ultimately the Black family. A lot of people don't realize that this actually goes all the way back to ancient history to include as far as like Africa and so forth. So some of the things that I wanted to address was the stereotypes because I wanted to be part of the solution versus part of the problem. So I wanted to address some of the stereotypes that we as a nation embrace as Black women and as Black men and perhaps start the conversation. So for example, the angry Black woman, the bitter Black woman, the gold digging Black woman, and the Jezebel, AKA slut and hoe versus the prude, because we also have the prudish Black woman. And then I wanted to address some of the stereotypes that are associated with the Black man, such as Black men are lazy, Black men are all players and dogs and so forth, and try to figure out where this all originated, what was the root of this, and why did we take it on? And I wanted to dispel some of the myths that we were told, such as, and I'm going to get some flack from this, the independent Black woman. This is a myth. This is a stereotype that we've actually embraced because it was literally constructed so that we can split the Black family, and ultimately that Black family serves as a foundation for Black unity, which is a foundation for Black economics. And until we have power and economics, which once again is rooted in the Black family and unity, then we can't have any power in the US or anywhere else because we lack that. And so Sun Tzu, this art of war has been perpetrated against us for centuries, because if you keep us divided and fighting amongst each other, then we can't unite, we can't. And in the US, for example, a long time ago, and it's not even that long ago because it was in the civil rights movement, Hoover actually said the greatest threat to the nation is Black unity. And so ever since then, and before then, it's always been this entire, I would say, concentrated effort to destroy that. And so how do we contribute to that? So at this point, we destroy ourselves. So yes, we do have all these social constructs that are put in place. I'm going to dissect the independent Black woman. Then I'm going to read a poem that I wrote. It's only one in this book. And then I actually would like to open it up to questions because there are specific areas I want to see if you, the readers, the listeners, want to talk about as it pertains to the stereotypes of the Black man and the Black woman and the origin of that. But first, let me dissect the independent Black woman, which unfortunately was our detriment, but at the same time, we're herald. So back in slavery, yes, I'm going to go back to slavery for the US people at least. The Black woman was set apart from the Black man through buck breaking and all the other bad stuff that you heard about. I don't want to go into detail about that portion of it, but this was the start of setting aside that independent woman myth and stereotype that was enforced into us. And then as time progressed, the Black woman came, and this is where we're like, oh, you can't trust Black men. Black men are dogs, they'll leave you. Well, no, that's not the case. It's because they were separated during slavery, for example. So this is like the US perspective, just so you know. And so, but that those Black women who survived the slavery, they interpreted that, they passed it on. And unfortunately, trauma is passed through your genes. It's actually genetic. It's been proven that we internalize and we pass that trauma that we experience through our genes and genetics. So with that being said, social constraints went in place next. So now that they separated the Black woman from the Black man and made sure that the Black man was removed from the home in various ways. So let's talk about welfare. This was another social construct that was used to prop up the independent Black woman as a continuation from slavery. Welfare in the US, for example, there's two forms. There's TANF-U and TANF, regular TANF, right? So TANF-U was usually used for white people. If they had an unemployed 18-year-old male in the house, it was okay. They were just unemployed. But for the Black family, they went out their way to ensure that the Black male had to be removed from the home. And that's why you have all these movies showing where the guy was sneaking out the window because the social worker was coming. Well, that was part of that social construct. Our music today still emphasizes where they need an independent Black woman, and that contributes to it. So now we have social media, we have music, we have media as in TV and so forth, as well as social constraints in society that continue to push that. As Black people, we're the only race that are constantly being told that the Black woman needs to be independent. We're the only race who are constantly being told that we need to separate from our men. That is a problem. But a lot of times, because we have all this internalization from way back in the day that's passed down through our genes, that we now take that for fact. And this is part of the problem. So the independent Black woman is something that I dissect because unfortunately it is a stereotype. It is a myth that we now embrace. And the purpose of the book is talk about some of these myth stereotypes that we embrace that are actually to our detriment, as well as dispel those that we shouldn't embrace, like the single Black father or the Black father in the home. There's a myth that Black men don't take care of their kids. Well, actually, according to CDC's and statistics worldwide, Black men are more likely to take care of their kids, regardless if they're with the male, with the female or not. But the media doesn't show that. So because I said I wanted to open this up to questions pertaining to stereotypes, I'm just going to read this one poem because I know we only get like 15 minutes and I can be really passionate about this subject because it's near and dear. And I think that as a community, we can't build until we start tackling some of these internal issues, and that include with ourselves. For Black women, this self-love portion that we need to tackle within ourselves. So I'm big on positive affirmations, but let me read this poem and then open it up to any type of questions. Because I really want to hear from you and your perspective or areas or stereotypes that you've heard, and that maybe I can start that conversation to help dispel it. So the poem, because once again, we're all about, give me one second. Interesting enough, I actually had it bookmarked, but anyways, because we tend to sterilize, one of those things was the beast. Black people were considered beasts, animals, and so forth. So I wanted to take that and put that in a positive spin. So who are you to tell me I cannot succeed, cannot be more than what you ordained for me? Black planet, Black continent, Black like me. A beast is what they call me, and a beast is what I'll be, stepping ferociously towards a goal set forth by me, for me and my family. Over time, I realized that certain things were not meant for me. They rang false with the promise of future greatness, but offered nothing but flagellation, loathing, and self-hatred. Questions began to rise as the time draws near. Black people, wake up. Religion got you stuck. Master says, turn the other cheek. While they rape and pillage, you stay asleep. Never wise, but put on your Sunday's best. Clothe yourself in King James interpretation of the Hebrews translation. Sing, praise, and shout. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord. Oops, I meant to say Christ. For we all know he is the only way out. At least that's what they told your ancestors, those old niggas that passed the same beliefs to you. Wholeheartedly you accept it as the Bible proved it to be true. The weak did inherit the earth, the meek and the mild, those that shucked and jived to stay alive, gladly accepting the master's hand, the master's whip, the master's belief to keep you like sheep. Lambs to the slaughter, line right on up, afraid of who you are, not just kings and queens, but gods and goddesses in control of your own destiny. Be that beast that breaks free, that runs true. Bring out the beast in you to shake off the chains of ingrate hatred, of incidental compliance to beliefs of an inferior race, of this misogynist portrayal of the Black woman, of the feminization of the Black man, of the neglect of the Black child, and the disbandment of the Black family. Be the beast that protects his that protects his mate, that protects his home. Better yet, be that king or queen that you are always meant to be, that God and goddess that walk in you, through you, be that. So I like to open up in the little bit of time I have left to any questions.
Talk to me about what your vision is for the future of Black womanism. From my understanding, that there's a lot of whiteness and feminism.
Yes.
What I've learned from Black women is more of a white woman's mantra. But what do you see the future of Black womanism being? We know where we've been, but where are we going to go to change the narrative?
Okay, so this is interesting that you speak about white feminism. Unfortunately, along the way, we got sidetracked into white feminism. And as a matter of fact, during the first civil rights movement, or not the first feminist movement, which was really the women's suffrage in the US, for example, the people who actually co-signed on it to get them even visibility were Frederick Douglass and so forth. Otherwise, they couldn't get on there. But with that being said, there are actually Black women a part of that. The civil rights movement, the reason why welfare ended up taking on a Black face was because the second feminist movement was occurring at the same time as the civil rights movement, and welfare was an issue for the white women at that time. So Black people, once again, intersected. So for Black feminism, one of the things that we have to do is that we have to take apart and stand apart from the white agenda, is what I call it, because what they want is completely separate from what we actually need. And so if you are familiar with the Million Women March organization, right? So there was back in 1985, there was a Black group for Million Women March, and they talked about issues that affected the Black family, such as reducing crime, the protecting domestic violence, helping the Black man as far as with the prison reform and so forth. And now it's a worldwide movement that is still focusing on Black issues. But then along came the Me Too and I call it the co-opting of a Black movement. And so they had another Million March in DC, for example, and actually got sued because, once again, instead of creating their own movement, and this can cause a lot of confusion amongst Black women, they basically took a movement that was already there, rebranded it, and put a white face on it and called it the feminist movement yet again. So with that being said, one of the ways that we can move forward is recognizing that we don't have to champion and take on everybody else's cause until we champion and take on the causes that we have in our community and that affect us. As far as feminism is concerned, I think there's a misconception that a lot of times when we talk about feminism, we're talking about rah, rah, I am woman, hear me roar. And yes, that's a part of it, but it's also a part where we need to focus on the family, focus on unity as to support that feminism. So I hope that answered the question.
Okay, we're going to go to our next question. Bernice Gell, she's put, can you talk a bit more on your affirmations?
Also, I love affirmations. I'll be honest, as a person who didn't believe in them at first, and one day, so I went to counseling because I had some issues myself, and it turns out that the anxiety from the military and some PTSD. But anyways, with that being said, they're like, oh, you should use affirmations. And initially I was like, oh, this is BS. But it turns out it's not. Because if you think positively, then it shifts your thought process throughout the day. So basically what happens, if I wake up this morning, so for example, every day now I wake up and say, I'm going to be the #1 bestseller. And then I take action to ensure that, but that my thought process is towards everything to get me to that point. if I wake up and I feel kind of like moody or something like that, I actually say an affirmation that's a little bit positive, so that when I start my day, I'm not looking at things as a half empty glass. I'm looking at it as a half full glass. And so I'm just going to give an example of an affirmation that I really like for Black women to use, or not even just Black women, but people in general. It'll be beneficial. Is I am loved, I have purpose, I am divine, I am worthy, I love myself. I am beautiful, I am bold, I am intelligent, I am sassy, I am confident. One of the things that Black women have a tendency to do is that we tend to take on the whole world, right? And so there's one in here that says, I am allowed to make mistakes, and my mistakes do not define me. I will be the change that I seek. And I say that because oftentimes when we take on the whole world, we may make mistakes in that process, and we'll be overly critical of ourselves because of a mistake that we've made. I also have, I choose to be happy. I love myself. It's actually a whole page of this, but this is the last one I'll read. I choose to be happy. I love myself, my accomplishments, and will continue to grow. So a lot of times we get so bogged down on what we didn't accomplish or what we failed to accomplish without recognizing that, wait a minute, I actually did do something today. Or even taking care of yourself as far as self-love, that's also an accomplishment. A lot of times we get bogged down on what we didn't achieve, what we didn't succeed in, and that bothers. That's something that we can focus on, and shift that focus for us, or shift your thought process. And that's for anybody, to be honest. Anybody can use the affirmations. I found that it works great for me. So yes, positive affirmations.